Good morning, students. Welcome to the lecture of real analysis. In the last lecture, we have seen some important theorems. The one theorem we have proved in previous lecture is a continuous function is integrable. Also, we have proved a monotonic function is integrable. In the last lecture, we have covered a theorem saying a bounded function having finite number of points of discontinuity is also integrable. To give the proof of this theorem, what we have done is, assuming there are p points of discontinuity, we have made the partition of the given interval in such a way that every point of discontinuity gets enclosed in one subinterval. Therefore, to cover these p points of discontinuity in each subinterval, we have to mark 2 points, one to the left of the point and one is to the right of point. Means for covering one point of discontinuity, we need to plot 2 points. Therefore, in order to cover these p points of discontinuity, we have to plot 2p points on the interval, and due to these 2p points, there will in all 2p plus 1 subintervals will get created. Therefore, if for the sake of understanding, here the proof I have shown you by considering first the p intervals containing the points of discontinuity, the remaining p plus 1 intervals over which the function is continuous. Therefore, anyhow, we have to prove this theorem by the condition of integrability. Therefore, our aim is to show that the difference UPF minus LPF due to these 2p plus into p plus 1 intervals gives the value less than epsilon. Therefore, to do this, we have divided the summation into two parts. One, in the first part, we have taken the summation over the points of over the subintervals having the points of discontinuity. The second part we have taken over the continuous. Now, with the help of suitable adjustment, we have finally proved that the every part is less than epsilon by 2. So that finally the proof will be, finally the difference UPF minus LPF will be less than epsilon by 2. Now also we have started one more theorem. A bounded function is integrable if the set of points of discontinuity has finite number of limit points. We have started the proof also. Suppose there are limit points of set of points of discontinuity. Here I have shown again, these are the p limit points marked with green dots. Right. Now again the same job we have done. To cover these p limit points, we have to plot the points in such a way that all the limit points should get covered in one subinterval. Therefore, to cover p limit points, we have to plot 2p plus points and etc. Therefore, for the set S of points of discontinuity, whenever I cover a limit point in a small neighborhood, okay, in a small neighborhood, infinitely many points will get enclosed by the definition of limit point. Therefore, in every neighborhood of a limit point, these points which we have plotted already, every neighborhood contains infinite points of discontinuity. Therefore, one can say that outside these subintervals, there remains only finite points of discontinuity. Therefore, again this difference UPF minus LPF, which is summation mi minus mi delta xi, is being divided into two parts. In the first part, we have taken p subintervals containing limit points, and the second part is for the remaining subintervals which has only finite number of points of discontinuity, and the aim is to prove every part of the summation is less than by epsilon by 2. Now the fact is known to us, this capital Mi minus Mi is less than M minus M. These are the oscillations in ith subinterval, and we know that these oscillations are less than or equal to oscillations over the whole interval A to B. Therefore, knowing the fact capital Mi minus Mi less than M minus M, if I take it outside, we remains with summation delta xi. Therefore, what we have to adjust summation delta xi, we have to adjust to be less than epsilon upon 2 times M minus M. This is the pure adjustment. The points around. We have adjusted the subintervals in such a way that the sum of length of these p subintervals should be less than epsilon upon 2 times M minus M. Therefore, the contribution by the first part of the summation is taking m minus m outside, summation delta xi is less than epsilon upon 2 times m minus m into m minus m, and which will be less than epsilon by 2. And what about the contribution by the second part? On the second part, as the function contains only finite number of points of discontinuities, by the previous theorem, we know that this function will be integrable over these subintervals. Therefore, one can say that the contribution to this difference UPF minus LPF is less than by epsilon by 2. Therefore, finally, we will get the value UPF minus LPF is less than epsilon. Okay, this is what the theme is. Now we will read the textbook proof of the theorem. Let me write the proof. A statement we have written already, therefore I am not writing the statement again. Okay. Let us write the textbook proof. This is the way you have to write it in the exam. Let the set of points of discontinuity of F have finite number, or I'll write finite number p. Right? Finite number p of limit points. Now we will make sure about the suprema infima in order to write the oscillations. Let capital M, M and capital EMI, EMI be bounds. And the capital right suprema and infima of F over closed interval AB and xi minus 1 to xi respectively. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are covering those p limit points by every subinterval. The limit points may be enclosed in p non-overlapping subintervals of closed interval AB, comma, the sum of whose length of the subinterval is less than epsilon upon 2 times capital M minus M. Now we know the reason why we have selected the value like this. Correct? No? Therefore, now we will write the total contribution by these p subintervals. So, their total contribution to UPF minus LPF is, what will be the total contribution? Summation capital EMI minus small mi delta xi less than or equals to this mi minus mi we will take less than by m minus 1, and as it is independent of I, let me take it outside the sum also. For this we have written capital Mi minus mi less equal by m minus m. But what is summation delta xi we have selected? Less than epsilon upon 2 times m minus 1. Therefore I will write capital M minus m into epsilon upon 2 times capital M minus m, therefore which gives us epsilon by 2. Therefore their total contribution, there means who? Those p subintervals covering the limit points. Okay, this is what I call as a first statement. Now we have to write about the remaining subintervals. Now it was very clear to us that in the remaining subintervals we have only finite points of discontinuity, because in every subinterval covering the limit point it has been enclosed with infinite number of points of discontinuity. Therefore I will write only a finite number of finite number of points of discontinuity, only a finite number of points of discontinuity of a can be outside these subintervals. Outside these subintervals, that is, the function has finite number of points of discontinuity, finite number of points of discontinuity in closed interval AB, excluding the p subintervals, enclosing limit points. Okay, is the step clear to everyone? Students, is the step clear to everyone?
Yes,
It has
ma'am.
finite number of points of discontinuity in the closed interval, excluding those p subintervals which are enclosing the limit points. Correct? Now, here in the sketch, it was very clear to us. No? This is a sketch we have seen in the last lecture. These are the limit points we have, and the neighborhood contains infinite points of discontinuity. Therefore, outside these intervals, we have only finite discontinuity points. This is what we have written. And what we know again a theorem, that function having finite points of discontinuity is integrable. Great. Now here we have. Now we will write therefore, as in the previous theorem, what is the theorem? Should I write it in a bracket? Every bounded function having finite points of discontinuity is integrable. Therefore, we write as in the previous theorem, the total contribution to UPF minus LPF from these portions of closed interval AB can be made less than epsilon by 2. Let me call it as statement number 2. Here we are writing directly less than epsilon by 2. Now, by equation number 1, the total contribution by the subintervals containing limit points is epsilon by 2, and the total contribution to this difference by the remaining portion of the closed interval is epsilon by 2. Thus, what will be our total contribution? Thus, for such a partition, P of closed interval AB, what is the value? UPF minus LPF. This is less than by epsilon by 2 is the first contribution by the P subintervals containing limit points, and by the remaining subintervals it is epsilon by 2. Here the reason is from 1 and 2. What is the total contribution? This is less than by epsilon. UPF minus LPF is less than by epsilon. Hence, the function F is integrable. The function F is integrable. Any doubt with the proof of this theorem? If you have the doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, we will go to solve some example depending on the theorems. See, let me write the criteria to check integrability. Criteria to check integrability of the function. Integrability of the function. First, the function, if it is continuous, then we say that integrable. Second, we say that the function should be monotonic, then integrable. Third, we can say that having finite discontinuities. Having finite discontinuity. Or fourth, having finite limit points. Finite limit points to set of discontinuity. Set of discontinuity. Therefore, whenever a function is given to us to check the integrability, what we have to do? We have to check any one of the criteria. First, we will check whether the function is continuous. Then we will go for checking whether it is monotonic or finding the number of points of discontinuity. Is that clear to everyone? Let me go for example so that the idea will be very clear. Idea is very clear. First example I will take is f of x is equal to x on closed interval 2 to 3. On closed interval 2 to 3. We want to check whether this function is integrable or not. If one has to check the integrability by Darboux definition of integrability, what we have to do? First we have to make the partition, then find out the upper sum, lower sum, upper integral, lower integral, correct? And if those two integrals are equal, then we say that integral. Same, if I want to use Riemann sum definition, we have to make the partition, we have to select the point Ti, then we will find the Riemann sum, we will check the limit, and we will find out the function is integrable or not. Now, instead of using those two specific methods, we will use any one of the criteria to check. No doubt, if one has to find out the integral value, then we have to go for one of the methods. Now, f of x is equals to x. Whether this f of x equals to x fits into any one of the criterias?
Yes, ma'am, it is continuous.
Yes, it is continuous. Therefore, as the function is continuous, may I say it is integrable. Since a given function is continuous, what is the nature of a graph?
Straight line passing through the origin.
Passing through origin. Good. Like this it is now. And this is our region 2 to 3 C. Therefore, this part will be under the consideration and this will be the area. Correct now? As the function is continuous, hence it is integrable. Hence it is integrable. Now this was our homework to find out the integral value for f of x is equals to x in closed interval 2 to 3. You can find out either by Darboux method or by Riemann sum method. Let me go for second example. The second example is show that the function defined by f of x is equal to 1 upon 2 raised to n for 1 upon 2 raised to n plus 1 strictly less by x less equal by 1 upon 2 raised to n. N is taking the value 0, 1, 2 and so on. and the second is f of 0 is equals to 0. The function defined by this method is integrable and integration 0 to 1 f dx is equals to 2 by 3. Okay, therefore here we have to check the integrability criteria and also we have to find out the integral value. Can anyone tell me what is the nature of this function? What do you think about continuity? Is the function continuous? What do you think, whether the function is continuous or not? Whenever the function is given in two steps, no? Two-step function, where one has to check the continuity. We'll try to understand the nature of the function first. Okay. May I say it is not continuous? Now two steps we will follow. First we will check the nature of the function and we will give the conclusion about integrability. Actually here we have to show that it is integrable. Okay, but by two methods I will show you how it is integrable, and in step number 2 we will find out this integration value. Therefore step 1, to prove that the function f is integrable. The function f is integrable. Okay, now to do this I will use method number 1. Method number 1, clearly the function is not continuous. Let me just try to write the function in more elaborative way so that you can understand the nature of the function. Okay, what is the function defined? F of x is equals to 1 upon 2 raised to n for this interval starting from n equal to 0, 1, 2 and so on. Therefore, let me define for n equals to 0 what is the nature of f of x. If n is equal to 0, what is this interval over which the function is defined? Is it 1 by 2 less than x less than or equals to 1 by 1? No? 2 raised to 0 is 1. Correct? What is the function value then for n equal to 0? Is it 1 again? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is. Therefore, may I write that this is for half less than x less than or equals to 1. Next, if I keep the value of n equal to 1, what is the nature of a function? And here it is 1 now. What is f of x for n equal to 1? For n equal to 1, is it 1 by 2? And what is the interval?
1 by 4.
2 square, 1 by 4 less than x less than or equals to 1 by 2. Correct? Let me write one more for n equals to 2. F of x is defined as 1 by 2 square. Is it 4? And here it is 1 by 2 cube, that is 1 by 8 less than x less than or equals to 1 by 4. Here also you can make 1 by 4. Correct? Shall I write for one more? For n equal to 3, f of x is defined to be 1 by 2 cube, na? That is 1 by 8, and the interval will be 1 upon 2 raised to n plus 1 we are writing.
16.
16, good. 16 less than x less than or equals to 1 by 8 and continue. And somewhere f of 0 is equal to 0 for x equal to 0. No? So f of x equal to 0. F of x is 0 for x is equal to 0, because in this way we are going nearer and nearer to 0, and the final value for x equal to 0 it is defined to be 0. Okay. What do you think by looking at this function? Where should I check the continuity? The continuity should be checked out at the point, at the split points, na? Correct or not? Therefore, at which point I should check the continuity? At half I have to check the continuity. At half, I have to check the continuity. 0, this is 1 say. Next here is somewhere 1 by 2. Here is somewhere 1 by 4. Here is somewhere 1 by 8. Okay. Now for 1 by 2, two different approaches of the function is given now. One to the right side, one from the right side, one from the left hand side. Then to check the continuity at 1 by 2, what should I do? We have to check the limit from the right and we have to check the limit from the left. If I check the limit from the right, what is the function value? This is 1. If I check the value from the left, the function value is half. Therefore, may I say clearly the function is not continuous at 0.5, at half.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. Similarly, what about 1 by 4? From the right, the function value is half. From the left, the function value is 1 by 4. I think I should draw the sketch. This is method 2 actually. This is 0. This is 1 say. Here also it is say 1. Here it is 1 by 2. This is 1 by 4. This is 1 by 2. This is 1 by 4. This is 1 by 8. Okay, what is the function defined for 1 to half? This is 1, na? 1 to half means this portion. Correct or not? If you are not getting me, you just tell me. 1 to half. Actually, this is not equal to half. This is just nearer to half. Okay. Next is from 1 by 4 to 1 by 4, 1 by 2. This is 1 by 2. From 1 by 4 to 1 by 2. Now this 1 by 2 is enclosed. Okay, it is not at 1 by 4. 1 by 4 is excluded. Na? It is included in the next subinterval. 1 by 2, 1 by 4 to 1 by 8, the value is 1 by 4. Like this. Okay, therefore if you just go on finding the, plotting the function, this is nothing but a step function. Correct, na? This is a step function. Therefore, what are the points of discontinuity? What are the points of discontinuity? 1 by 2, 1 by 4, 1 by 8. Correct, na?
Yes, ma'am.
These are the points of discontinuity. Okay, therefore, how many points of discontinuity do we have? 1, 1 by 2, or 1 by 2, 1 by 2 square, 1 by 2 cube, 1 by 2 raised to 4, 1 by 2 raised to 5, and continue. All the points will give us the points of discontinuity. Okay, therefore, this function is having infinite points of discontinuity. Infinite points of discontinuity. Therefore, may I write this as a set of points? Set of points of discontinuity. Is what will be the set of points of discontinuity? 0, 1 by 2, 1 by 4, 1 by 2, 1 by 8. Na? Actually, write 2 square, 2 3. This is 2 square, 2 cube, 2 raised to 4, and so on. Can anyone tell me the limit point for this? What is the limit point for this set?
0. 1 by 2.
Yes, it is 0, not 1 by 2, it is 0. The limit point of the set is 0. Correct, na? How many limit points do we have again? The set has only one. Only one limit point. Correct, na? Therefore, what is the just theorem? Just previous theorem we have seen. If the set of points of discontinuity has finite limit points, then the function is integrable. Therefore, here we have found the set of points of discontinuities having infinite elements where the limit point of the set is 0 and is the only limit point. Therefore, the function is integrable. Hence, f is integrable. This is the second method actually. In method 2, what I want to tell you is, can anyone tell me what kind of nature the function will have, whether monotonically increasing or monotonically decreasing? Look at the sketch. What is the nature of a function? Monotonically
Monotonically
Decreasing.
Yes, it is.
decreasing, ma'am.
Can you repeat?
Increasing.
Someone has given the other answer, I think, na? Decreasing, someone said.
Yes, ma'am.
No, it is not decreasing, obviously. Here, I think you have given the answer decreasing by looking at these function values, na? Function value is 1 initially, then half, then 1 by 4, then 1 by 2.
Yes, ma'am.
But what you have to think of, if x goes on increasing, then if the function values decreases, then it will be monotonically decreasing. But here, if x values, now here look at this graph. Here, as the function values x are increasing, as the x values are increasing, similarly the function values are also being increased. Correct, na? Therefore, the nature of the function is monotonically increasing. Nature of the function is monotonically increasing. Therefore, here I will write. Here, the function f is bounded and monotonically increasing. Why we are saying monotonically increasing, not strictly increasing?
Values are less equal.
Yes, at some portion of the graph we are getting the values to be equal, na? That is, if I take any 2 points in this interval, 1 by 4 to 1 by 4 to 1 by 2, for those 2 points, the function values are same. Therefore, we will say the function is monotonically increasing on closed interval. Hence, it is integrable. Hence, f is integrable. Okay, therefore there are two methods we have applied here. By first writing the function values, we can easily guess out that the function is bounded and monotonically increasing, and we have seen a theorem, every monotonic function is integrable. Hence, we can write a function f is integrable. Similarly, what we have seen, the function f is continuous except at these points. At which points? What are the points of discontinuities? 0, 1 by 2, 1 by 2 square, 1 by 2 cube, 1 by 2 raised to 4 and so on. These are the points of discontinuity, and this set of points of discontinuity has a limit point 0 and is the only limit point. Therefore, again by the theorem, if the set of points of discontinuity has finite limit point, then the function is integrable. Therefore, by the second method also the function is integrable. If the question is there in the exam, you can write any one of the methods. Therefore, half part of the example we have covered, that we have shown that the function is integrable. Now we will go for finding the integral value of the function. Integral value of the function. No doubt you can use the Darboux sum method or Riemann sum method, but here I am showing you with some different method. Okay, over here I will write step 2 to prove that. What to prove? Integration 0 to 1 f dx is equal to 2 by 3. Is equals to 2 by 3. If I look at this function defined 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1 upon 2 raised to n plus 1. May I say, if I take the value of n tends to infinity, if I take the value n tends to infinity, this 1 upon 2 raised to n will tends to 0. 1 upon 2 raised to n will tends to 0. Therefore, in order to prove the integral over closed interval 0 to 1, what we will do, we will just try to find the integral from 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1, and then we will put the limit. Okay, what I am going to find out is to find integral 0 to 1 f dx, comma, we first find the value of integration 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1 f dx. Why? Because if I take a limit n tends to infinity, what is the value of 1 upon 2 raised to n? 1 upon 2 raised to n will give us a value 0. So that it will be an integration from 0 to 1. Therefore, let us try to find out the value of this integral. In order to find out the value of this integral, we will divide the integral into subparts. How? Let me show you. This is 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1 f dx is equal to, first I will try to write it is half to 1 f dx plus 1 by 2 square to half f dx plus 1 by 2 cube to 1 by 2 square f dx and so on, integration 1 by 2 raised to n to 1 by 2 raised to n minus 1 integration f dx. Look at the step I have written. Okay. If I will write the one more previous integral, this will be from 1 upon 2 raised to n minus 1 to 1 upon 2 raised to n minus 2. If we combine the two integrals, this will be 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1 upon 2 raised to n minus 2. Likewise, we have to combine all, so that it will be an integration from 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1. Here you can check. 1 upon 2 square to 1 by 2, 1 by 2 to 1. This is 1 upon 2 square to 1. If I add the third also, this gives me 1 upon 2 cube to 1. Okay. So if I go on adding every integral subpart, this gives us the integration for 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1. Is this point clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Which rule we were using here?
If C is in between A and B, then integration of A to B equals to integration of A to C to integration of C to B.
Good. This result we were using. Okay. So we have splitted the given integral into these many parts. Now, if I look at these intervals, half to 1, 1 by 4 to 1 by 2 square. Look at these intervals. Half to 1. Is the function constant or not? Half to 1. This is having
Yes,
value
ma'am.
1. Hence it is constant. 1 by 2 square to 1 by 2. Again it is constant. Means over the subparts which we have made, over these subparts of the integrals which we have made, the function is constant. And already we have proved that the constant function is integrable. And what is the value of integration? Integration k over a to b is? Integration k over a
K
to b
times
is?
B minus A.
K times b minus a. Therefore, why to use again the Darboux sum method or Riemann sum method? Because it will be too much lengthy for us now. These many times we have to use Riemann sum method. Therefore, we have already proved that the constant function is integrable, and we know the value of integration as well. Therefore, we will just substitute the value of the function in these subparts. Therefore, for half to 1, how much is the value? Is it 1 dx?
Yes,
From
ma'am.
1 by 2 square to 1 by 2, the value is again half. 1 by 2 cube to 1 by 2 square, the value is 1 by 2 square dx. See, you can just check. Whatever is the upper limit is the function value. Upper limit of the interval 1, 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 2, 1 by 4, 1 by 2. So we will write the upper limits of the integrations. Correct? And what about the last? 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1 upon 2 raised to n minus 1. The function value is 1 upon 2 raised to n minus 1 dx. Okay. Now which rule we were going to use? Integration a to b k dx is equals to k times b minus a. This rule we have reduced by using Darboux and by using Riemann sum method. Therefore, what is the value for the first integral? For the first integral, the value is 1 into b minus a.
1/2.
1/2 plus 1 by 2 times 1/2 minus 1 by 2 square. Correct now? Next 1 by 2 square into 1 by 2 square minus 1 by 2 cube. Continue this to the last one. This is 1 upon 2 raised to n minus 1. And in the bracket we will have 1 upon 2 raised to n minus 1 minus 1 upon 2 raised to n. Okay, let me split out again. Let me do the simplification. The first value is half. What about this integral, this difference value? If we cross multiply, this should be 2. You have to multiply by 2 to the first portion. Then this is 2 minus 1 by 2 square. Correct now? 1
Yes,
by
ma'am.
2 1 by 2 square into half. Is it 1 by 2 cube? Similarly here, if I multiply by 2 to the first portion, this is 2 minus 1. Denominator is 2 cube. 1 by 2 cube into 1 by 2 square. Is it? 1 upon 2 raised to 5. And continue. This is 1 upon, how much is the value here? 1 upon 2 raised to n into 2 raised to n into 2 raised to n minus 1. Is it 2n minus 1?
Yes, ma'am.
The powers we have to add now, n plus n minus 1. This is 2n minus 1. Now what I will do? I take half common. What are the terms? We will check. This is 1 plus 1 upon 2 square, 1 upon 2 raised to 4, so on, 1 upon. How much is the value here? Half we are taking common. Is it 2 raised to 2n minus 2? 1 we have to subtract from the power. Okay. Now I will try to write it in the geometric progression. So geometric progression, no? Geometric progression with first term 1, no? And what is the common ratio? What is the common ratio? Geometric progression.
1 upon 2 raised to
1 upon 2 square, no? 1 by 4 it is. Correct, na? Here what is the value of A? First term 1. What is common ratio? 1 by 2 square. Do you know what is the sum of a GP? Formula A into 1 minus R raised to n. If n terms are there, I am writing the formula. Here how many terms we have? How many terms we have? N terms again. I don't know. I think we were not taking a big difficult example. This is very simple example we were discussing. No need of having the confusion. This half I had taken as it is. A is 1. 1 minus R raised to n. There are in all n terms. R is 1 by 2 square. Therefore, how should I write? 1 minus 1 upon 2 square raised to n divided by 1 minus R, that is 1 minus 1 upon 2 square. Let us just simplify the value. This is 1 minus 2 raised to 2n upon 1 minus 1 by 4. 1 by 4 is 1 minus 1 by 4 is 3 by 4. Correct or not? Half into 4 by 3 into 1 upon 1 minus 2 raised to 2n. Means is it 4 raised to n? Okay. So the value we were getting is integration 1 upon 2 raised to n to 1 f dx is equal to, how much is the value we were getting? This is 2, no? 2 by 3 I will take. 2 by 3 times 1 minus 1 upon 4 raised to n. Now in order to convert this lower limit to 0, what we will take? Taking limit n tends to infinity, we get. What we will get? The lower limit of integration will be 0, 0 to 1 f dx. What on the right side? This is 2 by 3 into 1 minus 0, which gives us the value 2 by 3, and hence it is the proof of the given example. Any doubt with the example?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Good. Let me take one more example. Third example we will take. A function f defined by f of x is equal to k. K is a positive constant. K is a positive constant is equal to 0. This is defined for x not equals to 0, and this is defined for x is equals to 0 on minus 1 to 1. On minus 1 to 1, show that f is integrable. F is integrable and value of integral is 2k. This is what we want to show. First we'll try to understand the nature of the function. How it is defined? Defined between the interval minus 1 to 1. For all x non-zeros, this is k, and for x equal to 0, it is 0. For what kind of function it is? Is it a continuous function to think? Whether the function is continuous? By looking at this function, can anyone tell me whether the function is continuous on minus 1 to 1? Where should I check the continuity by looking at the example? Interval is of this type, minus 1 to 1, which is defined for x0 and x non-zero. Therefore, somewhere here I will plot 0 also. For x non-zero, there is no issue. The trouble is with x0, because if I want to find out the limiting value at 0, once I have to come from the right side, once I have to come from the left side. If I come from the right side, what is the value for x non-zero? This is k. From the right left also it is k. But at 0 it is 0. Therefore both the limits do not match. Correct, na? I don't know why you are not responding to me. I hope I am clearly audible. Hello students.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
आवाज येतोय ना? बोलत जा रे मध्ये मध्ये, म्हणजे मला कळेल तुम्हाला ऐकू येतंय असं. Okay. Now this is the interval under the consideration. Function is defined equal to k for non-zero. Therefore, I will start with minus 1. Okay, I will start with minus 1. Somewhere here it is k. A small dot I will plot. Yeah. Now I will start with minus 1. What is the value? It is k. Till when it is k? Till when the value is k? Till x non-zero. And when it goes to 0, the value becomes 0. Therefore, here this straight line will take here till 0. It should not go to 0. No? And similarly from this point also. This is our function under the consideration. Clearly, this function is not continuous at x is equal to 0. Here you can see a small gap. Correct? The function is not continuous because limit x tends to 0, f of x do not matches with f of 0. because x tends to 0, f of x giving me k value, and for f of 0 it is 0. Therefore, this is not, and k is given to be strictly a positive constant. If a function is not continuous at x is equal to 0. Therefore, what should I write? Reasoning. The function f has only one point of discontinuity. Has only one point of discontinuity at 0. Therefore, by previous theorem, f is integrable. F is integrable. Second part, we were asked to find out the value of the integral. How to find out the value of integral? We have two methods with us, either by Darboux sum or by Riemann sum. It will be better to go by Riemann sum, because as the interval is included with negative positive values, we will divide -1 to 0 in n subinterval, 0 to 1 in n subintervals, as the process we have done for mod x. As the process we have done for mod x. Okay. Therefore, this will be today's homework. Make the partition of the given interval from -1 to 0, 0 to 1 into 2n equal subintervals. Use Riemann sum in order to find out the integral value of the given function. Okay, we will stop for today. If you have any difficulty regarding today's lecture, you can ask me. Yes, students, if you are having any kind of doubt, you can ask. Okay, I feel you don't have any kind of doubts, therefore let us stop for today. Thank you for being with me for this lecture.